National Football League fans, welcome to the very first episode of the Pro Football Insiders Football Buffet. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Rob Stats Guerrera and Coach Kevin Smith. We are going to be giving you a wide variety of buffet items, talking all about the NFL in Week 1. Let's welcome in our panel, shall we? Rob, what's up?
I've never been on a panel before. What's up, Jeff?
It's first for a lot of things. What's up, Rob? Not much. Let's go to Kevin. What's up, Coach?
I'm offended that you guys didn't like my name of football Smorgasbord. I thought that had a more international ring to it. I don't know.
Well, the NFL does like to reach international audiences as best as possible, so we might want to fall in line there. But let's get this show off started on the right foot. This is Week 1, and in the NFL, Week 1 is open for business. Everyone has hope. No one has any losses on the docket. The story of the week could be in a multitude of areas, and we all have our own rooting interests on this panel in terms of who we root for. But we're going to start with Rob. Rob, in your opinion, across the National Football League, what is your story of the week heading into the Week 1 opener?
Well, the story of the week for me is teams, especially contending teams in the AFC. Some of these teams have a Week 1 game that matters right off the bat. Remember last year when it was Chiefs-Ravens Week 1, and it was Isaiah Likely's foot was out of bounds on the final play of the game.
Pinky toe.
Yeah. Well, fast forward to the end of the season, and that game ended up mattering in terms of seeding. So, hey, it's Week 1, but the Ravens have the Bills this week. This game matters. We can't just dismiss it as like, oh, it's Week 1, don't worry. It's important, and it could matter at the end of the season, just like we saw last year.
A lot of implications in that game for sure. Kevin, what's your story of the week?
My story of the week is something, honestly, I'm not a fan of, and that is there's so many division matchups in Week 1. I think there's 6 or 7 of them right out of the gate. I love the division matchups when we get a little further down the road, when these teams have an opportunity to define who they are a little bit better, when the football's a little sharper. I just feel as though those games are very consequential, and to put them in Week 1, I know why the league's doing it, to build the intrigue. They probably rate high, but I think it's better football a little further down the road. I'd prefer to see them pushed off more into the fall.
My story of the week is just how teams get off to a start in terms of the narrative surrounding their start. So I look at a team like the Detroit Lions. You have replaced both coordinators this past offseason. You want to get off to a hot start, and you bring up the divisional matchups. Oh, they go against the Packers at Lambeau. That's a tough task. I look at like the new quarterbacks, whether it's Cam Ward, the number 1 overall pick, getting his first start down. Well, he's going to be in Denver. He's going to be at Mile High. That's going to be a challenge for him. And a lot of other young players, new head coaches. I love the newness of Week 1 and what that means for the National Football League. There's a million of different avenues we could go with new head coaches, new quarterbacks, things of that nature. But I'll tell you what, one of the things we're always going to talk about here on this PFI football buffet are matchups. We're talking about X's and O's, intriguing matchups to watch from a schematic standpoint. Coach, this is your segment, man. I'm going to let you go.
Yeah, Week 1's always fascinating because you don't really know yet. And as a coach, you have a very limited amount of film to draw upon regarding your opponent, particularly for teams that have changed coordinators. Speaking of, I think one of the most interesting matchups of the week is going to be Chicago and Minnesota, the Brian Flores defense against Ben Johnson's offense now with the Bears. If you think back to last year when Ben Johnson was the OC in Detroit, they met twice, and Detroit shredded Flores' defense both times, 31 points in both of those games. Jared Goff's numbers in those games were unbelievable. He was 49 out of 58 combined. That's 84% against a Brian Flores defense. All right, how did he do it? Because Ben Johnson loves the motion, and he loves to get the ball out of your hand quickly, and Brian Flores runs all those mug looks with 7 guys up at the line of scrimmage. And when you start motioning and moving around, the defense now has to make all these real-time checks, which is difficult on them. And if you can get the ball out quickly, you're going to find voided zones, etc. So it'll be interesting to see if Ben Johnson can do that with Caleb Williams in Chicago. Jared Goff, pretty cerebral guy, pretty experienced quarterback. Caleb Williams struggled with some processing issues last year. So I'll be really interested to see if Ben Johnson can run that formula back. And I'll give you one more matchup I really like this week, or I'm really intrigued by, and that is the Pittsburgh Jets game. You have Aaron Rodgers, former Jets quarterback, now quarterbacking Pittsburgh. You have Justin Fields, former Steelers quarterback, quarterbacking the Jets. The DCs in both those games know those guys extremely well. The Jets are very familiar with what makes Aaron Rodgers uncomfortable, as are the Steelers. And so it'll be a challenge for both of those offensive coordinators to be able to take advantage of what the defense is giving them while not having their own QB's weaknesses exploited. I think that matchup will be fascinating.
So it's interesting, Coach. Both of those matchups, the road team is favored. The Minnesota Vikings are giving 1.5 points on Monday Night Football in Chicago, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are actually giving 3 points on the road at MetLife Stadium. Rob, what's your take on those two games?
Well, let's start with the Jets game. And apparently, Elijah Vera Tucker, according to the Athletics' Diana Rossini, may have suffered a potentially serious arm injury, and he could miss significant time. So I'm trying to get more detail, but I don't know. But obviously, the Jets are a team that want to run the football. And if they're missing Elijah Vera Tucker, that could obviously impact things. I'm not a believer in Justin Fields. I've never been a believer in Justin Fields. What are we doing here? This is team number 3. Now it's going to suddenly click in for him. I'm sorry. I just don't believe it. I need to see it. He's a fantastic runner with the ball in his hands. He's unbelievable, especially as a quarterback. But that's not your main job. That's like St. Elmo's being known for cocktail sauce, right? If I go to a steakhouse, I want it to be known for steak. Justin Fields is not known for his passing, and that's going to be his main job as a quarterback. So I don't really have a lot of faith in the Jets. As for the other game, I don't know what to make of J.J. McCarthy. Am I just supposed to say, Kevin O'Connell did it with Sam Darnold last year, he can do it with J.J. McCarthy? And maybe he can. I don't know. But for them to be giving points is kind of surprising to me when they have a complete unknown at quarterback.
If he does it with J.J. McCarthy, is it safe to say that Kevin O'Connell is a quarterback whisperer who can kind of do it with anyone? Coach, would you agree with that?
Well, the Sam Darnold resurrection was one of the most surprising stories for me in the last several years because there were no signs, 0 signs, that he was on the verge of turning it around. Geno Smith gave us more of an indication that you could make something out of his career than Sam Darnold did. So for Kevin O'Connell to have done it there, really impressive. You talk to the Minnesota people, they're really high on J.J. McCarthy. I mean, they expect him to walk in and look like an NFL starter on day one. And they're putting all their eggs in that basket because the backup is Sam Howell. And then I don't even know who the third guy is. So, I mean, it's not like they've got a veteran in the bullpen that they can bring in and feel pretty good about themselves.
Coach, I want to ask you about the Pittsburgh game real quick before we move on. You heard Mike Tomlin on Tuesday talk a lot about Steve Wilks, the defensive coordinator, and the looks they're going to give Aaron Rodgers. But what about the other side of the coin? Do you think the Steelers are going to be able to stop the run? As Rob stated, the Jets want to run the football, and they're going to try it in a variety of ways. If the Steelers are going to win this football game, they have to force Justin Fields to have to be a thrower. And they saw that firsthand last year. It's not pretty. It's not always pretty, that's for sure. How are the Steelers going to go about doing that, in your opinion?
I mean, if it is mathematically possible to put 14 guys in the box, they're going to put 14 dudes in the box, man. Deshaun Elliott, Pittsburgh's strong safety, a really good run defender. Expect him to play low. He'll be down in the box. The Steelers went out and they got some really good cover corners. Right, Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey to complement Joey Porter Jr. They're built to play some man coverage. And so I would expect them to see a lot of cover one with low safeties and forcing Justin Fields to push the ball down the field. That'd be my strategy.
It's going to be interesting, and those are definitely some intriguing matchups in week 1. Now it's time for the commentary. We talked about the X's and O's, and now it's time where, Rob, you are known for your commentary, and I'm going to give you a chance to sound off on whatever you want to talk about heading into week 1. Go ahead and do that.
Well, I know I said that week 1 games matter, and they do, but I just want to caution everybody, because we do it every year, about drawing any conclusions off of the week 1 games. Week 1 is weird, and I just want to point to a couple things. First of all, I'm going to put my homer hat on for a minute. 49ers kicker Jake Moody was 8 for 8 on kicks in week 1 last year. That sounds great. The rest of the season, he missed 10 field goals. 10! Somehow he also kept his job, which is a whole other thing. But my point is, weird stuff happens in week 1. Last year, Patriots beat the Bengals 16-10 last year in week 1. Cincinnati would allow less than 16 points just 3 other times all season, and they would score less than 20 points just 1 other time last year. So my point is, do not freak out about week one and draw major conclusions off of what we have seen. It is weird. Teams are still getting their pants on. New coaches are still adjusting. New coordinators are still adjusting. New quarterbacks are adjusting to new systems. It matters. It counts, obviously, but we're not going to know anything about any of these teams for a few weeks.
Let me ask you a follow-up there, Rob. What point do you think we have, in what point in the regular season do you feel like we can actually have a grasp on what these teams are? How long do you think that takes? Because now everyone's saying 3 preseason games. Week one's essentially an extension of the preseason, which then my follow-up is naturally, well, when are we going to know something? What do you think?
I think it takes at least 4 games. I really do. It just, because of the preseason, like you mentioned, and just the routine, NFL players are creatures of habit. The more they can get into a routine, I think the better they will be. There's no buys until I think, what is it, week 3? Is week 3 the earliest you can have a buy? I think it's something like that. So teams have a chance to get into a rhythm. I wouldn't draw any major conclusions before week 4.
Okay. Kevin, what about you? How long do you think it would take? What's the sample size necessary to start drawing some serious conclusions?
Before I answer that, I'll say, Rob, fortunately, no one will overreact when their team looks terrible in week one. Everybody will be very zen about it. Right.
Right. College football coach, Arch Manning, like no one's going to overreact at all.
No. People are totally fine with how he played because they recognize the long game. So, yeah, I agree with Rob. I think it's about a month. I think you in a 17-game season, you're going to need a couple of weeks to figure out just logistical things, right? Let's say you're an offense and you envision yourself as a good 12 personnel team, but now you're struggling in the run game and you might have to rethink, like, are we better if we put an extra wide receiver on the field? Are we a blitz team? You have these grand designs for what you think you're going to be. Ultimately, you'll have to make some adjustments. And usually about a month or so into the season, you kind of figure out who you are, who you're going to be, and you hit your stride. So October football for me is when it really gets interesting.
And this brings up, Coach, the thing you started with, it's the show. Listen, Cowboys, Eagles, division game. Chiefs, Chargers, division game. You have, let's see here, I'm trying to go down. Giants, Commanders. Niners, Seahawks, Bengals, Browns, Buccaneers, Falcons. Lions, Packers. This is insane. How Vikings, Bears on Monday Night Football. Should the NFL be thinking about the quality of play early in the season and saying maybe we shouldn't put these division games early? Rob, what's your take on that?
The NFL cares about one thing and one thing only. It's not player safety. It is not quality of the games. It is not the fan experience. You just said it. It's money. I saw a little hand signal there. Money. It's what can make them the most money, what can get them the highest ratings. They don't care if it's a division game. They don't care if they have to make a team go to Brazil in week 1, which, by the way, we're doing this year on Friday. That's all they care about. So we can sit here and stamp our feet and hold our breath about all this stuff. It falls on deaf ears.
That's true. Coach, what do you think?
The Brazil example is a great one. Why? That's a division game. That's a consequential game, which figures into the tiebreaker formula at the end of the year, which is going to have playoff implications because these are two teams that are going to be competing for playoff spots. It's ridiculous to send that game to Brazil, which, by the way, last year the turf down there was an absolute disaster in that Philly-Green Bay opener. So who knows? What have they made those corrections? Yeah, that is not about quality of play.
And you lose a home game. Sorry, Jeff, I didn't mean to
go ahead.
But you lose a home game. If you're the Chargers, you don't get to play the Chiefs at home now because you're playing in Brazil. But meanwhile, you still got to go to Arrowhead. So that's not easy.
Last year, it was Packers and Eagles in Brazil. And that is an NFC game that's very similar to what Rob talked about, Ravens and Bills in week 1. That's going to have significance in the NFC standings. Again, you would think the NFL would take the approach of, we're going to make this an interconference game. Because if you lose an interconference game, like for instance, the Steelers are playing the Vikings in Ireland, that's in week 4. If you lose that game, if there's a game you're going to lose, that's the one you want to lose. You don't want it to be a conference, especially a divisional game. But like Rob said, the NFL does not care about what makes sense or what the fans think. They only care about the almighty dollar. And who am I to say they're a multi-billion-dollar organization? All right, let's switch gears and go to some predictions now. What we're going to do is we're all going to approach this a little bit different. I want you all to give us a prediction. I don't care if it's the money line. I don't care if it's with the spread. I don't care if it's more than one game or if it's an upset pick. Rob, you're looking at the week 1 slate of games. What is one of your predictions for this slate?
Well, I have like first of all, Sam Darnold throwing an interception against the 49ers, like book it. That is happening. That is absolutely the only question is who's going to catch it. But if I had to pick an upset, just looking at the schedule very quickly, is it crazy to take the Giants over the Commanders? I'm down on the Commanders this year.
Really?
Because, well, number one, they have the oldest team in the league by a country mile. The average age on Washington, I believe, is 28, which is the oldest team not only in the league this year, but I think in the last like 10 years. It's incredibly old. They played a bunch of bad quarterbacks last year. Now, the Giants don't exactly have a good quarterback, but I think the Giants defense is like maybe my sleeper unit of the year. I think they're going to be way better than people think. And I think that Jaden Daniels could be due for a little bit of a regression, just like CJ Stroud was. You know, we tend to think of quarterbacks and progression as just a straight line. That's not always the case. We've seen some guys have a little bit of a slump in their second year. Week one, again, as I said, weird stuff happens. I'm going to go maybe, I think, with the Giants upsetting the Commanders in week one.
So you talking straight up money line pick, or are you talking about with 6.5?
No, straight up to win the game.
That's plus 215 for those that are out there that might be betting. That's a good odds. And hey, definitely the Giants minus getting 6.5 points. I think that might not be a bad play. You're not going to get as good of odds, but that you make a good point. Coach, did you want to mention anything about that before you go to your pick?
The Giants have the hardest schedule in the NFL on paper, and their first 9 games are brutal. I think the only game they're favored in or will be favored in will be against New Orleans in week 4 or 5. So for them to win this game would be absolutely huge for them and for their confidence, because I can see it going one of two ways in New York. You get out of the gate fast, you build a little confidence, you keep your head above water through the first half of the season, and then maybe you make an actual playoff run or something similar to that in the second half, or you get out of the gate poorly. You get buried by that ridiculously difficult schedule, and maybe Brian Daboll is gone and Jackson Dart's in the starting lineup by midseason. And I don't know which way it's going to go, to be honest with you.
All right. That's fair. Coach, what's your prediction for this week?
Well, we're talking about that Brazil game. I just keep thinking back to the fact that the Chiefs have been to 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls, which means they've been playing into February when a lot of NFL teams have been done in late December, early January. Over 5 years, that's 5 additional months of football. That's almost an entire season more than anybody else has played. I just keep thinking, when will that attrition catch up with the Kansas City Chiefs? And people are it's first week, everybody's fresh, reasonably healthy. It just feels like this is a game that Kansas City could be vulnerable in against a physical Chargers team that I think is going to be pretty good running the ball. So if I had to pick an upset in week 1, I think I would take the Chargers over the Chiefs down in Brazil.
The Chargers are getting 3.5 points there. And if you want to take them on the money line, it's plus 145. That's not a bad play. Rob, any thoughts on that game in Brazil?
I agree with Coach. I think that the Chargers defense had one of the best defenses in the league last year. Now, Mahomes is good against the division. I think since 2016, Mahomes has the most wins over division opponents of any quarterback in the league. But nothing continues forever in the NFL. Jim Harbaugh is a really good coach. He's really good at taking teams that are kind of mediocre, middle of the pack, and turning them into really good teams. He had the Chargers in the playoffs last year. At some point, the Chiefs have to blink, right? And I'm not saying like be terrible, but I'm just saying not in the AFC Championship game and Super Bowl. And part of that is they maybe lose games like this one. So I'm picking up what you're putting down, Coach.
I'll give you one more real quick, Jeff.
Go
right?
ahead. Yeah.
This is probably a little less realistic. I'm feeling a Daniel Jones vibe. I don't know, man. I'm feeling week 1. Come on, get on board with me.
Danny Dimes.
Get on board with me. Daniel Jones lights it up against Miami in week 1.
Wow. I don't think Miami's going to be that good this year. So that's interesting. Let me see the line here. The Dolphins are getting 1.5. So the Colts are actually favored at home here. So interesting line there.
Sometimes you just have a feeling, man.
Yeah. Hey, that's fine. I'm going to go upset pick of the week. There are certain things that I look for when I think about early season upsets, new coaches, young quarterbacks, teams that have made some big changes and big moments. I like the Raiders going to New England and beating the Patriots. I thought it was absolutely stunning. I believe that Drake May is the only player that was drafted in 2024 to remain on the roster for Mike Vrabel and the Patriots. I think he has completely gutted that roster. They've had a lot of turnover, made some good moves. I like their draft picks. I like their free agent acquisitions this offseason. But Pete Carroll and the Raiders with Geno Smith at quarterback, they've done it before going across the country. Remember, I think it might have been last year they beat the Ravens in Baltimore and no one saw that coming. I could see the Raiders, who are getting 2.5 points on the road. Give me the Raiders and Pete Carroll to really make a statement, and really the Patriots might take some time to actually start to get going under Mike Vrabel. That's my upset pick of the week. Take the Raiders, Ashton Genty running the football, Geno Smith not having to throw it a million times. I think the Raiders might be surprising some people early in the season. Rob, any thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I like that. Look, Pete Carroll, for as much as he has just, given me nightmares over the years when he was the coach of the Seahawks, he brings an energy and a passion and an excitement with him. And clearly, I think from what you've been reading and what we've been seeing, the Raiders have felt that during this preseason. And if there was ever a time where that was going to make a difference, I think it would be right out of the gate in week 1. I don't like New England. I don't like anything that New England has going on anyway. So the combination of those two things, I'm definitely taking the Raiders. That could be a sneaky good survivor pool pick in week 1.
There you go. Coach, any thoughts on that game?
Well, I think the Brock Bowers matchup is going to be problematic for everyone, but particularly for New England with a lot of new pieces. The NFL record for most catches in a season by a tight end is 116. Bowers had 112 last year as a rookie. He's going to break that record. And it'll be fascinating to watch them work that combination of Genty and Bowers, because they complement each other so well. And it's a Chip Kelly offense. And if there's one thing that he knows how to do, it's run the football. So I think there'll be a lot of play action opportunities there for Brock Bowers. And
just refresh my memory, who were the quarterbacks throwing Brock Bowers footballs last year? Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell. Boy, I mean, that was just a great quarterback. Geno Smith is a huge upgrade in that department. So, yeah, I definitely like, if you're taking Brock Bowers' yardage, I would take the over. Whatever it is, take the over. All right, so we want to finish this up. I do my Steelers grilling thoughts on social media, and I put it on our YouTube channel. And we were going to do a tailgating tip, and we'll throw it around the horn and see what everyone do. But here's my tailgating tip for y'all out there. Whether you're cooking at home or whether you're in the parking lot of a stadium, don't be lazy. Never use gas, only use charcoal. Make it right. And don't use lighter fluid. That tastes like crap. It makes your food taste like crap. So you get yourself a starter chimney. It's really simple. You can get one at Lowe's or Home Depot. You put newspaper at the bottom, charcoal on top. You light the newspaper on fire. It'll heat up the charcoal. Increase your tailgate by only using the regular charcoal, whether you're doing burgers, brats, dogs, whatever. Don't be lazy. Don't turn to propane. It tastes like garbage. Use charcoal. Rob, any tailgating tips from you?
You're a purist. I like it.
I am 100% a purist.
You're going to be tailgating for a while anyway. So if it takes the charcoal time to heat up, you're there. So don't worry about it. I have more of a home tailgating tip.
Okay.
Week 1, I have a tradition. I always go with the 3 H's: hot wings, Heineken, and Haagen-Dazs. That is what I do every week 1. I don't know how it started. It became a thing, but now I can't live without it. So I highly suggest it. Give it a shot if you're not going to a game, if you're just, going to order food, whatever, week 1. The 3 H's: Heineken, hot wings, Haagen-Dazs. You'll never go wrong.
There you go. What about you, Kevin? You got any tailgating tips?
Rob, Jeff hasn't had a carb since 2009. So I don't know if he's down with that. This is my tip. Here's how I know I'm older than you guys. Because when I think about tailgating, I think to myself, what am I going to consume and when will I have to go to the bathroom? And so you have to make sure, right, that you manage that properly. Otherwise, nobody needs to be, doing your business in the stadium bathroom in the third quarter.
That's true. That's fair. You gotta be a smart consumer of food.
Did you see, by the way, speaking of going to the bathroom, the Tush Push this year is sponsored?
Really?
Sponsored by Dude Wipes.
Oh, good. That's fantastic.
That's the same company that sponsored the Browns when they did their release of their new helmet and the dude fell into the river, or the lake, whatever it is.
Just saying that I've never seen a play sponsored before.
That's perfect.
This is
so are we going to hear like Tom Brady say that Tush Push was sponsored by Dude Wipes? Go get Dude Wipes.
Meanwhile, the rest of the NFL is like, how do we get every play sponsored?
Yeah, but they will. They will for sure. All right, this has been great. Rob, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you on social media, your 49ers coverage, and anything else you want to plug?
So I'm on all the socials at Stats on Fire. And if you want to check out our 49ers coverage, just search Gold Standard 49ers wherever you get your pods, or on YouTube. We pop up. If you give us a chance, I promise you will come back.
All right. Kevin, what about you and your Call Sheet Daily podcast?
Yeah, Call Sheet Daily podcast runs every day, Spotify, Apple Music, Monday through Friday. Wednesday's guest, Mike Mayock, former NFL general manager, longtime NFL Network analyst. He was fantastic. So if you get an opportunity, Call Sheet Daily with K.T. Smith, and tune into Wednesday's show. It was excellent.
Absolutely. If you want my coverage of the Pittsburgh Steelers, go to Steel Curtain Network, wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, and steelcurtainnetwork.com. You can find me on social media at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT. But that's a wrap. The first football buffet, week 1, is in the books. We'll see you next week, everyone. Take it easy.